Yay. Okay. So thank you so much, Brittany, for coming onto the Evolve with Nicolette podcast. I'm so excited to have you. I wanted to first have people get to know you. So let's do a little bit of like how you got started in your private practice. Like bring me all the way to the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it's a long story and it was a long time coming, but I think everything started really coming together. I want to say a couple years ago when I had decided um, that what I was doing career-wise was really not in alignment with me whatsoever. I was working as a grocery store manager, and I had my um, level 3 butcher training. So I was a meat cutter
Oh.
for years. And I loved the grocery store atmosphere, helping people, and really and truly a foodie at heart. So
Yeah.
it was a good time for a little while, but I realized that there were a lot of things that I wasn't taking into consideration, namely my body, and really and truly, I was in such a masculine role that I had really lost that feminine side of me. And I was like, man, like, who am I? What am I doing?
Mhm.
So I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, and I had decided I was going to go the more natural route. I went and saw a naturopath and was trying to get my hormones really back on track and actually supporting me instead of working against me. And that in itself kind of was the beginning of me changing career paths and really life paths. And I ended up going to a really amazing college downtown Vancouver, which is like the city core of the area that I'm in. And it was an amazing experience. We always talk about this, all of my colleagues, it was really like a 2-for-1 situation. Because we were there getting our education and we were learning how to be counselors and coaches, but the program also asked of us to bring our own experiences, our own traumas, our own really life stuff, all the stuff that we have ever been through, and essentially work through that as we were becoming counselors. So that in itself was a trip.
I mean, how old were you? Just to like round it off, like how old were you when all that was happening?
Yeah, I was 26, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 26. And I won't get into too much detail as to what we did in the classroom, but it was such an amazing, life-changing program. And really and truly, when you become a counselor, you're going to hear like a lot of things that are going to trigger you and are going to upset you and like all of that kind of thing. So I think the most amazing part of my training was the fact that I was able to kind of dig through my past and really understand the patterns and boundaries and all these different behaviors and things, and essentially ready myself to be able to sit in front of anybody and hear what they have to say and really help them dig into what's going on for them without getting triggered myself. Yes, and I don't think they teach that in a lot of the like university settings, and like there's a university called Adler, and it's like the Adlerian way or whatever, and it's a certain form of counseling. And I know some people that went there and they're like, okay, I'm going through the process and I'm reading all these books, but I'm not having the human interaction that it takes to be a counselor. Like, literally you are one-on-one with somebody and you are the guide.
Yeah. I mean, to hold space without having to like, I could only imagine how taxing and draining that is.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of counselors burn out within the first couple of years of practice. It's very common. And a lot of the reason is because they're constantly triggered in their seat while they're helping somebody. So I was very aware of that. And as I was going through, my schooling, all kinds of things were coming up, but really and truly that was the beginning of my, I guess you could say, like identity formation and really looking at like my racial identity and what I have been doing in the entire span of my life up until then, and what I've kind of just like left to other devices, really and truly not paying attention to the impact that it does have on one person to, well, be like not monoracial to begin with, and to then grow up in a community that is monoracial and that is predominantly white and trying to navigate those spaces. So there was that.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, there was that. And then there was a piece in there that we were doing some ancestry kind of exploration. We were doing this thing called a genogram. And the genogram really and truly is a map, like a family tree essentially, and it tells of all the like relationships, abuse, addictions, like all kinds of different things that have gone on in your family. And you have to write it out and you have to present it, and it's it can be some really heavy stuff. So I was going through my genogram, and because at the time I didn't know my biological father, I had like a whole section that was really blank, and I was like, damn, there's a whole half of me that I don't actually know. It was a huge, huge realization, and I feel lucky and fortunate enough that I did have some ways of connecting with him to get some information for that side of my family tree. And with that came a lot of realizations about who I am as a person and kind of how I've just tucked away my Black heritage and really hadn't opened up to it whatsoever. So that started a journey of getting to know my biological father through text messages and through like little video calls and things like that, and asking about our heritage and that kind of thing. And I was really excited, but I was also hesitant.
It's a whole kind of worms that you have to open as you're like finding yourself. You were on a journey to like help others, but in actuality you were like finding yourself in that whole process. That's
Totally.
amazing. That's crazy.
100%. And yeah, it was all of that and then some. But connecting with him was pretty interesting. I learned really and truly that, like a lot of the time, people focus on like who you're raised with and your environment and all that kind of thing. But I began to realize that there were a lot of things that I had at first thought were out of the ordinary, or different quirks, or like different things that I had that I didn't have in common with the rest of the family that I was brought up with. But then I met him on like through these messages and talked to him through these video chats, and I began to realize that all of those things that I had found quirky and didn't have any, I wasn't able to place, a lot of them came from him. And that in itself was incredibly healing. It was very healing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because it allowed me to accept pieces and parts of myself that had kind of just written off, I guess you would call it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, like, that's a blessing. That's awesome. Well, I'm really happy to hear that. That's like really, really good. Because you know what? A lot of people don't get that type of peace, right? Like, there's a lot of people, and not even, that's just from, coming from a family, or like a family that isn't per se whole, right? Like,
Right.
went through most of your life without a father figure, and then just only recently did like the pieces all start to fall together. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It
Awesome.
was beautiful. It was intense.
Yeah. Probably all the types of things. Like, I bet you felt like, did you feel anger, sadness? Like, probably had that whole range of emotions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally did. And yeah, that was new to me, to have all those emotions too, especially about somebody that I really and truly didn't know. Like, he could have walked by me on the street and I would have never known that was him. So that was pretty interesting. And then fast forward to just after graduation. So I graduated and I, started up my private practice. I was really excited. I was just counseling and coaching really anybody that was interested in getting some help with depression or anxiety, or, really and truly, it was a wider array at that time. And through that time, I'd kept contact with him and we had talked and whatnot. And I had actually began to feel comfortable enough to like really open up to him. And I called him on his birthday one year, it was that year. And I was like, hey, how would you feel if I came to see you? Like, how would you feel about that? What would you think? And he was like, yes, absolutely. Please come. I want to see you. I want to meet you. We'll have a great time. We'll show you around, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So that was in December. And then 6 months later, I got on a plane to go and see him. Me and my mom went together. She hadn't seen him in almost 30 years. So that was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. And just before we got on that flight, I was doing some course or something that I'd found online, and it was it felt like it really aligned with what I wanted to make my business. And I was sitting on the front steps in the sunshine, and it hit me all of a sudden. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I should be counseling mixed race people. Like, this makes so much sense to me. So I ended up, taking some courses and doing some studying around identity and really and truly understanding the mixed race experience outside of my own. And I was like, man, this is it. Yeah.
So much so, like, I've never even heard it put that way. I'm telling you, like, I've been feeling, I don't want to say lost, but I feel like everything has a label nowadays. And I still feel like, just even by you saying, like, the mixed race experience, like, oh my God, yes, like, that's what it's called. But like, there's really I really feel like, or at least I haven't seen it, right? Or it's not mainstream to the point where like, these terms are out there, or about them, or you don't really hear about like these issues. At least I didn't. So I think that's like awesome. And thank goodness you had that epiphany. Where were you, in the airport? Because
I was sitting on my front step.
I mean, like that's awesome,
Yeah.
fantastic. So like, and then from then on, you just went like head first on
Mhm.
like changing your whole practice to being specific towards. Now, do you also, because I know that you cater towards women, or it's also for men also?
Yeah, I mean, I would not turn a mixed race person away because I do understand that I am really and truly, there's not many of me
Oh,
in this kind of vicinity. So I have had men reach out to me and I said, absolutely 100%, we can definitely start counseling or coaching. That's totally fine with me as long as they are fine with having a woman counselor. I always ask that because sometimes it's a no-go and sometimes it's like totally okay.
yeah.
So yeah, I've definitely had some inquiries and some interest, but all of my like marketing materials and all my programs and things like that, they are geared toward women, because that's my perspective, and really and truly that's the best way that I can come forward is through my perspective.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm so glad that you're doing it. That's awesome that you're holding space for people like me. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I want to. So then, what do you see? So let's. I know like you can't get into detail about like clients and stuff like that, but what do you see as like the most like common like problem for like mixed race women, like the common like issue? Because I
Yeah.
mean, I know my issues. Like, am I alone? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And then also too, like you can identify because
Mm-hmm.
you had so many layers. I mean, I always call um now I could call it the mixed race experience. Like that shit's an onion. Like you keep on pulling back layers and you keep on getting like more and more issues like little by little. So what do you feel like is like the common thing that runs through no matter what backgrounds they come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think identity is like the key. Really and truly, the development of one's identity, and specifically as a mixed person, because we may identify with the way that we were brought up in our family of origin, but that may have not included all parts and pieces of us. So my own experience, I grew up in a predominantly white household. My grandmother, she is English, and like I mean, there's not a whole lot of, like festivities or really any cultural things that we would have done except like different foods and stuff. But I had no influence of my African ancestry, or I'm also Native American, and then also on my mom's side, uh, her dad is Syrian. So we didn't really express those things, and that makes it very difficult, I think, for most people that are mixed to accept that piece of them if it's not kind of shown to them and practiced in their household. So you come to like, I don't know, in your 20s, and you're doing your self-discovery and you're finding out new pieces about yourself, and there's this whole side of you that's lost because it just was never talked about or expressed, or um, one of the things, that my family members would say was like, oh, we don't see color, and you're just the same as us and everything. And I know that they meant it in a loving and caring way, not to um, separate me from them. But it's hard when you go out and you're living in an area where everybody else is seeing color, and that takes a hit on your identity. So I honestly think that's the bottom line. Like identity exploration, I have a actual program specifically around identity and just breaking down the parts of your identity I think it's something that is ever evolving, because as humans we don't ever stop evolving and changing and all that kind of thing. So it's a great starter space to kind of just like have some awarenesses and bring some clarity to just that identity piece.
Yeah.
Can you relate?
I mean, like, that's awesome, because I feel like for me, as I'm Mexican and Filipino, and I always felt like I could never explain it to someone else, because I felt like nobody really knew what I was going through. You know what I mean? And my brother, I have a younger brother that's 5 years younger, but like we weren't able to talk about those things because he was too young, and I could never like pinpoint like how exactly I was feeling. But the feeling across the board all these years was that I was never enough. I was never like Filipino enough. I was never Mexican enough. When I was with like my Filipino friends, like I was always the one that was different. You know what I mean? Like, even though I was raised predominantly in Filipino culture, because I was about 90% of my day was with my Filipino family, like my grandpa, my grandma, and my auntie was my constant all day long. And because my parents worked, I only had a little bit of my mom every single day. So I couldn't learn Spanish. I knew how to, I understood it, but I couldn't speak it because there was no one to like practice with or to force me to speak Spanish. So then, because of that, now I'm not Mexican enough because I don't know Spanish. Right? Or I can't speak it, or my accent is so thick that I get made fun of. And that also led to me having like this kind of stage fright. Every time that I would try to speak Spanish, I would always get made fun of or poke fun. So it would always be like an issue that I was never enough. And I feel like during my self-discovery in the last like 4 years or so, like I've always known that I'm half Filipino, half Mexican, and I'm very, very proud of that, right? But I felt like I was always on an island by myself. Because I either had friends that were solely one race, like you were solely Filipino, you were solely Cambodian, you were solely Mexican. So the mixed race experience was only my own. And then I would find whenever it kind of always felt like every time I would meet someone that was the same mixture as me, I would always compare because they always looked more Asian, or they always looked, it wasn't the same type of mix as me, whereas like my mom's the one that's Mexican and my dad's the one that's Filipino. It was always the other way around. So as a result, they always looked Asian, or I was always envious of how they looked more Asian than me, or how they looked more Filipino than me. So like it's just this like fucking battle that I'm still dealing with to this day, because I always had to like, I always feel like I have to prove myself wherever I am. And then I have now with like social media and me trying to like help inspire others to also be on their own self-healing journey. It's hard for me to find space in like those separate communities, because although we don't, everybody feels like they're inclusive and all these things, but when you're solely speaking Tagalog on your Instagram, I can't relate. I want so bad to be in the Pinay Club, to be in the Filipino Girls Club, but I can't, because you guys are speaking a language that not even my family speaks, because there's 7,000 dialects in the Philippines, and we're the one that does not speak Tagalog. You know what I mean? Like, it's always not enough. Like, I'm not even the right type of Filipino girl, It's just, it's like this constant, and it was always this conversation I had in my head, or like with myself. And maybe like 2 Christmases ago, because my family was beautiful, because On my Filipino side, we have Filipino Chinese, Filipino Japanese, and Filipino Mexican, Filipino and Caucasian now. But like me and my cousins that were like close to me, they are of Chinese and Filipino descent, but they were Chinese that was born in the Philippines. So it was even more of a mind fuck for them because they look Chinese on the outside.
Yes.
Right? But we identify as being Filipino. So like my little cousin would tell me how hard of a time that he had in college because he wanted so bad to be in the Filipino club, but like I don't want it to sound bad, but I feel like I have a right to say it a little bit. Filipino culture is so judgmental that like
Mm.
if you don't look it like what are you doing here? And I don't know if that's how it is for like other cultures, but that is totally the case because I experienced that in high school, I experienced that in college. So hearing my little cousin talk about that, like it hurt, like that sucks, But then I'm
Yeah.
just all like, oh my God, like I had these same conversations. So we had like a coming to Jesus moment, like the three of us, at Christmas. I'm like, oh my God, I feel the same way too. And my little cousins are around my brother's age where they're a little bit younger, but being able to have someone else to talk about that with it's blown my mind ever since. But I haven't had those conversations with anybody else since then, because I could talk to my Filipino friends that have like degrees in like, education and break down race and all this other stuff, but they are still not mixed race. So they still don't like, I get that they understand or trying to like hear me, but like the experience is not the same.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And to me, ever since like me and you connected, I've been like, just looking into even the guest speakers who are in the summit with next week with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's been just even mind blowing to hear like their stories too, because of how similar I don't want to say like frustrations and same type of like insecurities like is across the board. Um, and it's hard to like because I feel like that's a part of me that like I don't know if I will ever like I want to get rid of that feeling of like I'm not enough,
Mm-hmm.
or I
Mm-hmm.
always have to like prove myself. Like have you ever had to like help someone like through that? Like how does someone get through like that feeling of
Yeah.
because that always goes back to like worthiness. Like does anybody else experience the same thing in like your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of my clients that have had the same experiences and have difficulty with self-worth and have difficulty, feeling not enough for this group, not enough for that group, feeling isolated and just confused as to why they are feeling that way. And really, we do a lot of inner child work. We talk about, their experiences from their childhood because a lot of what we are dealing with today is placed in our past and our past experiences. A lot of them just being incomplete in the moment. Maybe there wasn't somebody there to help you. Maybe there wasn't somebody like an adult to console you or tell you it's going to be okay, or whatever those experiences were. Sometimes we work in that direction. Um, yeah, and really and truly too, it's going to depend on the person and where they're at in their journey. Like if this is something brand new to them, then we're going to have to start from the very beginning. And it is one of those things that people end up coming to me when it gets unbearable. Like they can't go to work because they feel like they're just being, isolated, or something's happening there, or they're feeling like every time they go to a party, there's jokes being made about one of their races, and they just sit there and they're like, oh my God, like, what do I say? You don't want to be the person to stir the pot, but at the same time, it's like you feel really shitty when, like, do I laugh along? Do I, like, what do I do in those moments? So yeah, no, it's a very common thing. It's so common, and I've had my own experiences with it as well. And honestly, continuing to get to know yourself and to uncover those pieces has been my journey, and that comes in so many different forms. Whether that is like going and doing your ancestry or your 23andMe and like actually figuring out to the country and the origin and all of those kinds of things, and it just seems to all build on each other. And I feel like at the end of the day, you end up having a better picture of yourself, a whole picture. And then those comments that come at you where people are saying you're not enough or you're not fitting in here, it no longer bothers you in that way, because you have a full understanding of who you are instead of looking outside for that validation. So it's a process though.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Like validation is the word for sure. And it's like super repetitive, like in my life. And as I start to, as I've been on this journey, like that is something that I've had to like no one is gonna be able to do that for me but me.
That's right.
Like no one's ever gonna be able to make me feel like I'm enough. That's just gonna have to come from me. And the blessing that I have is that I was so like my grandparents. I always said that they served us a side of guilt with dinner because it was always like, you need to eat all of this because we didn't have this in the Philippines, and you get a whole fucking history lesson over dinner. But it was like, it was beautiful because I know exactly where my Filipino side comes from. I know exactly like who they are, and I'm so proud of like my background. But then when it comes to my Mexican side, I have such a strained relationship with that side, and there's a lot of trauma on that side, as there is on my Filipino side, but it was more like family oriented. And like so like it was just both worlds like were so drastically different. And that part of like healing, I feel like it's hard to heal when I was raised by my mom, who was like so hurt and broken by her family. So it was, like when you like the generational trauma totally transferred from me to her. Also from my dad too, with his experiences with his grandparents also. So it's so crazy how that affects like one another. That's why I don't want to repeat those same cycles with my kids. And that's why it's like I have to heal for them, just because even if I'm half of what I used to be, like at least they'll be better off, and hopefully they'll be able to like stop with their kids or whatever it is, because that's also another thing that I have to like navigate is I feel like I'm raising them more Filipino than I am Mexican, or like, so now I have like these little white boys, they're very, very fair, but then it's like, you guys are Mexican and Filipino, like don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? But then to also raise them to let them know that they're born with a certain privilege now, just by the way how they look, it's life is so motherfucking complicated. I
I know.
We could go on this for 2, 3. We could go on here for like a whole week if we keep on like trying to dissect like all those different routes we're trying to make a left turn at right now. You know, like it's
Totally.
so much. It's so heavy, so complex. Like I don't even. We could go on for days. How do you feel like? Let me try to take the left turn. How do you feel like? Do when you notice like with your clients, do they have a lot of body issues when it comes to like being mixed race? Like, is that something that's also common because of like their skin color or you know what I mean? What's that like?
Yeah. Definitely. And I think because, you know, we live in such a westernized beauty standard. I think that is really a huge disservice to the rest of the world. Trust me, I still struggle myself coming up under that westernized beauty standard. And it is definitely a topic that we talk about in the counseling sessions that I do. And it comes in many forms. So there's people that I counsel that are very fair skinned, and they sit in rooms, in situations, in areas where their mix, their other side, is being bashed completely, and they feel like they don't have a leg to stand on because of their appearance. And that in itself, I could only imagine how incredibly painful that would be, and scary, because honestly, like, that is what a terrible situation to be in, and to not know what to do, and to not know, and to feel hurt or sad or scared or whatever it is, and feel like they can't represent that side of themselves because of how they look. So there's that. And then there's also, I know hair is such a big thing. We talk about hair all the time. I've had my own hair journey, and I'm thinking of actually doing like a writing workshop about like hair experiences, because it just keeps coming up, and I feel like I need to speak to it.
It's so crazy that you said that because I just had like the thought of like I need to do a whole episode on my fucking hair, and I thought that was so weird. But I knew that I could easily fill an hour just talking about my hair and just the way how my hair has been such a big part of me growing up on my identity crisis. And then I just had the epiphany like only 2 weeks ago of like my hair's curly because predominantly Filipino women, Asian women have black, thick, straight hair. And all my life, my hair has been poofy, Aretha Franklin big, and I was always taught that it was ugly. And it was always like I was always getting brought to the hair salon to get it straightened. I was always getting what's it called? That's the thing too, is that my Filipino aunties were over here doing like the treatments that African American women do on their hair, and they're doing it on my hair. Legit fried my hair, and it's like we don't have that same hair. Like it was at all costs to get my hair
To just
straight, and hours upon hours of getting it blow dried straight before straighteners. You know what I mean? And this whole time, I'm thinking that my hair is not Filipino enough. And then I broke it down the other day that I have curly hair because of my dad. My dad had a huge ass afro, not perm, natural, in the Philippines. My hair is Filipino. Like that does not come from a Mexican side at all. Like my mom has the most straightest hair in the world, thick as hell. I did not get that hair. And nobody on my mom's side of the family has curly hair like I did. And I was like, my hair is Filipino. Why did I, you know what I mean? Like, I was taught that my hair was ugly all these years. And
Yes.
only until recently did I have like the, oh my God, like, I'm more Filipino than anything because everything about me is more my family's, my dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
It even, and that's the thing too, is that we are like, I look so, my body is of like my dad's sister. You look at
Okay.
my dad's sister and like I have like the thinnest ankles and the thickest thighs, and like my body built, like my grandmother, all my aunties are above average on height, where all these Filipino women are commonly short, like 4'11", 5'1", and all my aunties are mostly like 5'4", 5'7" range.
Oh wow.
That may not be tall to other people, but like for Asians,
For
that's tall,
Asian. Yeah.
you know? Or like my grandmother was my height, and for being 5'6", 5'5", that's very tall for a little Asian woman. You know what I mean? So it was
Totally.
like everything about me is from my Filipino side, but yet I'm still not
Mm.
enough. And I mean, you need to do the workshop for the hair.
I know. I
You
know.
have to.
I
You
got
know? And I bet for you, being with mostly around white people, your hair was probably a topic of conversation all the time.
Oh my God. Yes. And it was the weirdest thing for me too because I hated my hair because it was so unmanageable. I didn't know how to do it. My stepdad is white. My mom is white. They are two very white people that do not know what to do with this little black girl's hair. And
Yeah.
this is in a time of there was no YouTube, there
No.
was no, I'm sure there were books out there, but they weren't going to the library to get a book about how to braid African
No.
hair.
Right.
And really and truly, there are so many different textures and porosity and all of this kind of thing.
Yes.
The black culture, like there's just so many, right? Like
Yes.
my hair, like you can see, it's fairly like ringlety and it's defined. There are, yeah, there's just too many. So I got so many mixed messages because I was having trouble with my hair. I was feeling down. My self-worth was down, my self-esteem, all of that. And then I get all of these usually white people. Oh my God, your hair is so amazing. It's so beautiful. I just want to touch it. I wish my hair was like that. Like, and I was like, I don't know what to do.
You're the biggest mind fuck ever.
Yes, 100%. So 13 years old, like right before high school, my stepdad takes me to a black hair salon and I get my hair chemically straightened. He sat in the chair next to me for 5 hours while I got my hair done. Amazing man, amazing. But like that was my ticket. That was my ticket to freedom. It was my ticket to being able to do my own hair successfully in the morning before school. It was my ticket to fitting in. It was my ticket to feeling confidence. It was all of those things and so much more. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing at 13. I didn't know the damage that I was, going to have to deal with later on in my life. So from 13 to probably about 27, I had my hair chemically straightened. I straightened it with the straightening iron every single day. I wore hair extensions, all of those kinds of things. And there's nothing wrong with doing any of that. Absolutely not. Like everybody, go and do your own hair thing.
That to each their own, but it's like taught you where straight's pretty,
Yes.
and
And it's
that's,
acceptable.
and it's one of those things where it's like there's a TikTok that actually is like it's a voiceover that's like, I don't have to straighten my hair to be pretty. I don't have to straighten my hair to be pretty. I don't have to straighten my hair to be pretty. And it's these girls trying to like doing you can see that they're putting like the conditioner in their hair and their hair is already super, super kinky. And then at the last minute, it's just like their hair at is natural. And I'm just like, this is the shit I needed to see like years ago when I didn't know how to manage my hair, because I would leave the house, my hair being one size, and by the time an hour passed by and that shit dried, it was out to here.
Yeah.
It was unmanageable. Like, oh my god, it's so necessary. Like I'm telling you, it's just layers. Like, where do we even stop? Where do we go? Like, we could just talk all day.
I know.
I've never had these types of conversations with anybody else before because it legit like never came up. Like this is not. I feel like I'll talk to people and they'll just like, oh, okay, like can't relate.
Mm-hmm.
So this is beautiful that they're now like you are now holding space for women like me that just have been feeling like I don't know who to talk to. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
I feel like we need to do like a part 2, part 3, part 4 to this. Like this is
Let's do
I,
it.
I can't even. Um, we went through all of my questions for sure. I feel like let's talk a little bit about the summit because that is what brought us together in the first place. So, what are you excited for? What? Give me like the quick rundown of like what's popping next week because there is a lot of amazing things happening in like
Mm-hmm.
a couple of days.
Yes, I know it's starting so soon on Sunday, October 25th. I'm so excited
Yes.
to have everybody aboard. And really and truly, like, this has been about wellness from the get-go. Like, for me, that has always been my passion and my purpose is feeling well and like finding ways to feel well that are suitable to your lifestyle. Like, it's so important. So we are bringing all kinds of self-care, wellness, self-love, affirmations, all kinds of good stuff coming for 6 days. Yes, that's right, 6 days in a row.
You literally were like, let's just hit this one out the park real quick. Like that. It's a big feat, but like this, you're doing it. You're there. It's done. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm excited. This is great, and I'm glad to just be a part of it for sure.
I'm so glad that we connected the way that we did, and to have you on is so cool. I feel like all of the women that I've brought together, they complement each other so well and are really that heart-centered kind of woman. So we're going to be having some heart-to-heart conversations, just like we did today in this podcast. And we're going to be talking about real life stuff, like stuff that all of us go through. Whether you are a mixed race person or a person of color. Like, I feel like, there's interchangeableness within that. So yeah, we're going to hear from some amazing people, a therapist. We're going to hear from a woman that owns a dance company and she has mixed dance and movement and mental health together. We're going to hear from a lady that has a skincare line and she's mixed race as well. Like, all of these amazing things, really and truly bringing as much representation as possible in this, because that is where we're lacking as a mixed community. We need to see everybody out there.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Front and center, talking about all of it, even the hair, like all of it. You know what I mean? Because it just to even be talking about the hair with you, how fulfilling that shit was for me to have somebody to relate that to. You know what I mean? And we're not the same race, you know what I mean? Or the same mix. The fact that we're able to connect just with hair alone, that was just so awesome to me. Because I bet you so many girls out there, I mean, the young girls now, are so well. Hopefully, they're able to have the means to be on a computer and like be able to YouTube things. But you can legit Google and YouTube like black curly hair. What do I do? And how I would have loved something like that when I was younger, or for you to even like be able to Google that shit and like don't chemically trick your hair, like don't do that. You know what I mean? Like just to even, it's a beautiful time. Although despite pandemic, it's a beautiful time to be able to connect. Because I feel, even though I know people have been devastated by the pandemic, there's so many blessings that have happened in this time just because we're able to like, oh shit, we could Zoom, this could happen. You legit can hold a whole fucking summit for 6 days virtually, and your reach is unlimited. You know what I mean? You're able to have so many people from all walks of life, from anywhere, be present. And that I'm just so glad that we're in the time that we're in, because this is great. And this is so much, and I'm just like, I can't handle. This is amazing. So I just let people know like your Instagram, your socials, where can people find you? And then let them know about how to get onto the summits.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So you can find me at Mixed Mental Health on Facebook. There is a private Facebook group that I have there. It is private just because we talk about mental health and all kinds of, different things. So that's a private community there. You can also find me at Mixed Mental Health on Instagram. Just type it in. That's me. There's only one of me. And you can also find me on Twitter, which I'm still trying to figure out. It's, right? I don't know. I'm not schooled in the Twitter land, so I don't know. Maybe I need to find someone to help me, but I'm at Health Mixed on Twitter. And is there any other place? Well, you can check out my website, www.mixedmentalhealth.com. That has all of the resources. I've got free resources on there. I've got resources to, start your counseling journey if that's something that you're interested in. Also, resources like my kind of self-study courses that allow you to just kind of go at your own pace. And yeah, in terms of the summit, so the only way that you will have access to the summit is if you sign up through the link in my bio. And I believe all of the ladies that are attending as well, they have the link in their bio too. So go ahead and jump onto Mixed Mental Health or to one of these lovely ladies' pages and click the link in the bio, sign yourself up. It's free. It's so free.
So free, and so, I mean, if you could put a price on it, like it could easily be a couple hundred, if not $1,000, just for the amount of time that you get with these ladies, and for the extent of 6 days. Like this is awesome. Like legit, bring your notebooks. There's gonna be like breakthroughs and gems. Like I'm just so excited. So every day starting Sunday, October 25th, right?
Yep.
5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Links in my bio. I'll do it on the podcast here, on the YouTube. I'll link everything here, and I'm just excited to see you next week. And this was a treat. We were able to talk to each other twice today. This podcast will probably come out on, maybe we'll drop it Sunday just because we're excited, or Monday. But I want to say thank you so much, Brittany, for doing this with me today. I know that we've had a busy day, especially you. But I'm so glad that we made it work, because this was a beautiful, and let's do it again.
Yes.
We have to do it again, because
absolutely.
we're just going to keep on peeling the onion together, because somebody needs to do it for sure.
You betcha. Well, thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure. And yes, I'm looking forward to going live with you and talking about all that you're doing as well. So, yeah, until next time.
Yes, until